We got a couple things in the mail today. Here we've got a 3-inch inlet to 5-inch outlet diesel muffler tip. The Invidia N1 that we have right now is a 3-inch inlet to 4-inch outlet, so this one's going to kind of fill out that exhaust cutout a little bit better. And I kind of wanted to go with a little bit louder exhaust setup too and make it modular, meaning like I bought the exhaust flange, I bought the gaskets, everything that I need so that I could put this exhaust on whenever I want, and then I could switch it out and make it quieter whenever I need to as well. Now, what is this, you might ask? This is something very, very special. Let me show you guys. Now these are 8K springs. These are 2K stiffer than the stock BC Racing BR coilover springs. And just for reference, the stock Forester springs are 4K. This is basically double the stiffness over stock. So this is a shorter spring as well, so definitely a little bit more compressed. I think as far as for street use, this is going to be a little bit harsh, but I could definitely dampen the settings on the coilovers just to make this a little bit softer and more bearable on the road. And then for track use, which eventually I want to do, I could dial them in and make them a little bit stiffer. Check out the finish here. Looks pretty freaking cool. I'm liking it. Definitely a major improvement too over the stock ones that are on right now, because those, I got them used and they're a little bit rusty at this point now. So this will definitely be a nice little replacement as far as performance and for looks. Alright, so this is our current setup. We've got our spotlight over here along with this little cloth kind of mat laid out just so we can do our job on our back. We got the car all jacked up, and if we take a look on the inside over here, look at the coilovers. So we have 2 nuts that we have to undo, and these are our coilover extenders, so in case we need to ever adjust them and we don't want to basically like take apart the back like this, we could just do it, and they're easy access right over here. So we're going to start off with our breaker bar. Go ahead and take off the wheel over here, the driver's side rear wheel. And if you're a dummy like me and you forgot to loosen up your wheel nuts while they were on the floor, go ahead and chalk a piece of wood right behind the wheel, and we could do it that way. There we go, just like that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to be working one coilover at a time. So we're going to go ahead and use our breaker bar over here to undo the first nut on the coilover, and this is a 14 millimeter. Before we get on with the rest of this install, I want to give you guys a quick little preview of the parts that are going to be going on. So again, like I mentioned, these are the Swift spring upgrades. The 8K springs are a little bit tighter or a little bit more solid than the current ones that are on the car. All right, so there you have those. And then we have the Godspeed lower control arms. These were actually a really good deal. These were about 200 bucks online. Now similarly designed ones went for around probably double. So I'm just gonna see how well these hold up, because the current ones that we have on there, we actually got those for free, because the old owner of these BC Racing coilovers just kind of threw them in there, and they actually happen to be seized. So there's certain spots like right over there in the middle where that rusty bolt is, like that doesn't adjust. Pretty much all the bolts over there don't adjust. So in order to avoid that with these, we got some anti-seize. So we can go ahead and throw these on the threadings over here so that this same thing doesn't happen again. And also I definitely wanted a red accent to go with like the rest of the red accents, like the Perrin rear sway bar and things like that, and you know, like the tow hook, just to kind of go along with all the other red features that we have going on with the car. There's actually a couple of bolts that we have to take off. It's this one right over here, which is a 19. This one's also a 19, the one that's connected to the coilover itself. With the rear Endlinks over here, that I believe is an 18. Yeah, that's an 18 right there. And then this one over here is a 17. So I'm gonna start from the furthest out and make my way in, and we'll go from there. So these are a little bit locked up, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab some PB Blaster. Hopefully it'll help break them free a little bit easier. I almost forgot, I gotta go ahead and get something to elevate this. Probably just gonna grab one of my jack stands or the jack itself and prop this up a little bit so I can get this bolt fully out. And before I did this, I went ahead and put this like big rubber stopper over here just so that we don't damage anything on the brakes. So now that when we lift it up, it's pretty smooth, so nothing's being really dented or anything. So now, since the lower control arm is disconnected, we're just going to go ahead and put the jack right over here just to hold up this end of the suspension. I think tomorrow we're actually going to finish this up because for now, I mean, everything is really being made harder because I can't use power tools, so I don't want to wake up my whole neighborhood. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, so it would be nice to have a garage, but for now I think we'll just have to wait till tomorrow. But let's see how much we can get done tonight. Oh shit. Alright boys and girls, remember that first step I told you about removing the 2 nuts up here first? Yeah, don't do that or else what you guys just saw is going to happen. But good news is we have the coilover out, so what we're going to go ahead and do now is grab our spring compressors right over here. So basically the way that this thing works is that there's 2 ends, one over here and one over here, that go around the coil, right? So we're going to tighten them down a little bit to provide a little bit of pressure on the springs. All right, then we're going to start undoing some of these bolts just so that the spring doesn't go flying out and kill anyone. Once that's done, we could safely remove the spring, replace it with our new Swift spring that's right over here, and then we can move forward with the install. As for now, what I think we're going to do first is take off, or completely take off, the lower control arm that we have right over here. We're going to put it right next to the Godspeed one, the new red one that we got, and just compare the size and adjust it to the same length. There it is. Okay, so let's peep this setup real quick. So we went ahead and took one of the bolts that came off the original lower control arm, so we kind of placed them right together over here just to make sure that we have all the lines lined up. And now we're going to go ahead and mess with our adjustments over here to make this just as long as this. So these 2 holes have to line up, and then we should be okay. So now the last bolt that we just took out, I want to see if this works. It's kind of short, it might not work, but I'm going to pass it through the original control arm and see if it lines up with this one. And it's pretty much almost there. Let me bring it out a tiny bit more. And one of the really important steps that we don't want to forget is to apply some of our anti-seize. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. Now that the anti-seize is on, we're going to go ahead and grab our wrenches and we're going to tighten down the 2 outermost nuts. So another component that we're going to need here, in addition to the 17mm wrench, is a 5mm Allen key. So we're going to put this right over here so that this doesn't spin. Alright, so nothing bad has happened yet, so that's a good sign. I'm just going to keep undoing this. Hopefully this thing doesn't explode in my face. Take off this little piece, whatever that is. And now this slips right off. Very nice. Got this little stopper thing too. Alright, so we got the old spring off right over here. It's looking super rusty. Alright, so we're going to place that to the side. We got our little dust boot over here. We're going to take this off as well. Actually, I don't think the dust boot comes off. There's like a little, there's a stopper right over here. Hold on, let me come on this side so you guys can see. There's a little stopper right over here that I don't think it's meant to actually come out. Maybe that's just for like the dust boot so it doesn't come off. But yeah, so I'm actually going to go ahead and clean this up a little bit. There's a lot of grime and filth. Let me see if you guys can see it in the light over here. But yeah, there's a lot of grime and filth over here on the threadings. I'm going to go ahead and clean those off, and then we're going to go ahead and put our new Swift spring on. So now I cleaned the threads as best as I could. So now we're going to get to actually reassembling the coilover. So we got our spring right over here together with our radial bearing, what I was telling you guys about. Now BC actually offers 2 types of radial bearings. There's these, and then there's regular ones, and then there's these. These are the upgraded ones with the Coil, some sort of Coil upgrade. So basically what this allows it to do, so you see how it spins over here? So this sits right on top of the spring. Let's see if I can show you guys right over here. So this sits right on top of the spring, okay, like this, okay, so that when the spring is rotating, this thing is rotating too, so they basically rotate independent of one another. And especially when you're like going at like low speeds, you won't hear any sort of like clanging on the spring. I know that I get it sometimes. I haven't gotten it lately, but you know, since I have these already, might as well put them on. Alright, so the coilover is all rebuilt. We have the first bolt in on the lower control arm, so now we're going to go ahead and try and put everything back together. So it's the next day now, and we managed to do one side of the suspension right over here, and we still have to do the passenger side. And now we actually get to use power tools too, because it's during the day, so it won't be disturbing anyone. So it should go a little bit smoother and a little bit quicker. We are finally done with the rear end. That took a while because I made a mistake actually on this coilover. So one of the parts that I had to put on, I don't know what it's called, it's like this little circular like black thing. I basically put it on the wrong end of the coilover, so I had to basically disassemble this end and redo it again, so that kind of took a while. But this end was perfect because I did the driver's side first. This was pretty much a breeze, so it wasn't too bad. We basically had the 3 bolts there. I want to show you guys some of the adjustment knobs and the differences between the DX Racer ones, the blue ones that I had on. So basically what I did was I put this on the lowermost hole as opposed to the other 2. I believe the lower you put it, the less camber there is, so more, let's say, positive camber instead of negative camber. Again, don't quote me on that, but basically, like, instead of it being tilted like this, like the way I kind of had it before, like it was a little bit tilted, now it's a little bit straighter. So got that going. So yeah, so let me show you guys the stock one. Right, so the stock one, we see right over here, there's only 1 hole per attachment, like for the coilover or for, you know, different places that it inserts into. So for example, like this one right over here, you see that the new one, the red one, has 3 holes, and this one has a little bit less, or just 1 rather. So you have 3 different types of adjustments here as opposed to just 1 right over there. So pretty neat. The Swift springs are looking pretty good too. I'm kind of glad that I messed up on this because I did have to redo the preload. There was one video that I used as a reference to adjust the preload. So basically I set them both for 4 millimeters of preload. That's typically what BC Racing recommends, anywhere between 3 and 5, so 4 is right in the middle. So yeah, so basically did that. Everything is all tightened up now. It looks pretty damn fine. We still have the rest of our springs right in here, right in the box, so we're not going to get to that this weekend. So what I think I'm going to do now is clean everything up, and then I'm going to take it for a quick test drive. We're going to mess with the dampening settings here as well. I didn't change them to how they were before, but because these are 8K springs now, they're definitely a little bit stiffer, so I may have to put the dampening all the way to the softest just to make it feel like, you know, comfortable on the street and not really bouncy. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna clean everything up and I'll catch you guys in a bit. Alright, so already setting off, feel the rear end pretty tight. Let's go ahead and give it a little slalom. I mean, it feels super tight. I haven't really gone over any serious bumps yet, I mean, other than these speed bumps. Over the speed bumps, it feels pretty normal. Again, we have the dampening set to the medium setting, I believe there's 32 different settings of dampening settings on this, and I've always kept it on 16 right in the middle. So right now it's feeling pretty good. We'll see how it really does on the highway. I don't think I'm going to be going on the highway today, but if anything, I'll get some footage of that for you guys later on in this video. Alright, so we're actually going to go ahead and adjust the dampening settings to the lightest real quick. So 2, 3, 4. Oh, actually that was actually one of the lighter settings. I thought I had it on medium setting, but oh, I must have gotten thrown out of whack when I took the pin out. Okay, I totally forgot about that. Okay, alright, so this is actually the lightest setting now. So let's see how that feels like. Yeah, so overall the car is feeling very dailyable, like with the softest dampening setting on the rear and like a medium setting in the front. This is like super doable. I'm actually pretty pleased with this, but I could tell my alignment is pretty off right now because every time I put the steering wheel straight, it veers off to the left, so I kind of have to keep pressing it over to the right. But it's something that I'm kind of used to because my mom's car had that issue, actually the same thing, where it would go to the right, and yeah, so I'm kind of used to it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to head home. I'm going to wrap things up for today. We've got day 2 here doing the front suspension. I'm not going to show you guys the whole thing just because you saw the rear one, but we're going to do a quick time lapse of it. So we finished with the passenger side. Everything is nice and tight. We set up the preload. This honestly didn't take as long as the rear because there weren't as many parts to put. Like I didn't have to change any of the control arms or any of the other components, but so far, yeah, we tightened everything down over here. These were a couple of 19 millimeters right over there. We got our spanner tools that you guys saw. We adjusted the preload, all that stuff, and we're sitting at, you know, pretty nice spring rate all around now. We're at 8K all around. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up the other side, and I'll talk to you guys in a little bit. I want to give you the quick rundown of what we did. So we went to Pep Boys, we got everything realigned, and as far as the settings for everything, so I want to show you over here. So on the dampening setting on the front coilovers, we have them set to 12 clicks. So again, we said there's about 32 different adjustable dampening settings. So we have it on 12, so it's a little bit softer. So 12 in the front and also 12 in the back. It's basically 12 all around, pretty much a square configuration. And honestly, I've had this set up now for a couple of months. I'd say like a month or two. It's been a while since I've been able to get to this video and edit it and all that stuff, but I'm super happy with how it's been handling. I mean, like we said, they are stiffer springs, but they've been handling much better than the stock BC Racing ones. As far as the ride height, we basically kept everything about the same. I did higher it just a little bit on this side because it was rubbing if I went over like some pretty heavy bumps, especially at like higher speeds on the highway. So that's not an issue anymore. So yeah, I think I really dialed in the proper suspension settings. I'm thinking in the future I would like to lower the car a little bit more, so I would have to maybe roll the fenders or something like that, or maybe get thinner tires just to kind of you know, add a little bit of spacing in the wheel well. But yeah, overall I'm super happy with the setup. I got the springs for a great price as well. I think for all 4 of them it came out to around like 300 bucks. The Coil bearings, actually, I want to mention something. So the Coil bearings actually do come on these coilovers, but the ones that I got are just replacement ones, so they only go on the 2 front ones, and they actually turned out to be pretty rusted, so I did replace them as well. So I ended up getting 4 4 of them because I was under the impression that the bearings also go on the rear suspension, but they only go on the front. So I've got 2 extra ones, but that's okay. I mean, it's always good to have replacement parts. And that's honestly what's really awesome about BC Racing as well. Like, they have so many different replacement parts that you can replace literally every part of the coilover, every little nut and bolt. So I think that's awesome. So overall, I'm super happy with the setup. The Swift springs worked out perfectly. They did take a long time to install, but it is a learning process. So I am learning, and now I know how to do it. So thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like down below if you did indeed like the video. Share with anybody who might need help installing coilovers, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care now. Peace.